Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, welcome back to my video with me, Annisa from English Education Universitas Negeri Padang. And today, I would like to take this opportunity to complete my final project of English for Science and Technology. So, without waiting any longer, let's begin. So, it will be presented by me, Annisa, and here is my student ID number. And here is our beloved lecturer, Mr. Rizaldi Hanifa SPD MPD. So, this presentation will be divided into two parts, and let's go to the first part. That is about what have we learned in this semester about English for Science and Technology. But before that, we should know about English for Specific Purposes or ESP first. That is an English language teaching approach that is specifically designed for certain purposes or needs. In contrast to general English teaching, ESP focuses on developing communication skill in a specific context. The main goals of ESP to help students learn English more effectively and relevantly to their need in a particular field of work or study. And English for specific purposes has many types like English for business, English for hotel and tourism, English for law, and especially English for science and technology. So, what is English for Science and Technology? English for Science and Technology refers to the specialized use of English language and in the fields of science and technology, encompassing terminology, communication, and writing specific to these domains. And so, what are the benefits of English for Science and Technology? First, let's find out what the characteristics of the science of English for specific purposes or ESP first. First, ESP is formed and designed for certain specific discipline. What does it mean? That is, ESP was created for a more specific field, for example, learning English to become a tour guide in a hotel and tourism sector, or perhaps English to build a relationship in the business world, namely English for business. Next, the ESP learning method is different from the general English. And the third one, the learning method is usually used student-centered because focus on student interest and need according to the field they are studying. And the next, ESP generally intended for people or adult students because adult students have found their identity, so they can determine where their interest and talent are directed. And the last one is learning in ESP also include a lot of practice and assignment, not just theory. So that later, students can really use their English language skill in their respective fields. So, let's go back to the previous question, that is, what is the benefit of English for Science and Technology? So, it cannot be denied that ESP, and especially English for Science and Technology, has been proven to provide so many benefits. The first one is global communication. What does it mean? English in international language, English as international language and proficiency in English allow scientists, researchers, and professionals in the field of science and technology to communicate and collaborate with peers globally. And the second one is access to resources. Access to resource, a significant amount of scientific literature and researches is published in English. Proficiency in English provides access to a wealth of information, research papers, and resources in field of science and technology. And the third one is career advancement. Proficiency in English, especially in the context of science and technology, enhance career opportunity. Many multinational companies, research institutions, and academic settings require English language skill. And the last one is academic study. So, in summary, English for Science and Technology is a valuable skill that promotes effective communication, collaboration, and access to wide range of resources in the rapidly evolving fields of science and technology. So, now, let's move to the part 2, that is about my lesson plan. So, my lecturer asked me to make a lesson plan for senior high school in the context of science and technology. So, I choose to make a lesson plan about material explanation text, which the title text is How Snow Formation. So, of course, this question will be arise. Why did I choose these materials? Because explanation text usually contain an explanation of how an event happened. So that's why I chose this material, because it is related to the science. And for the text, I chose I also chose to talk about the process of snow formation, which is clearly related to English for Science and Technology. And next, the lesson plan that I made is like that because it adapts to the learning objective that suit to the student needs and is according with the learning material and is linked to English for Science and Technology. And before we come to the conclusion, let me to show you my lesson plan. So I make it in two versions. I make it in Indonesian version and English version. But my lecturer asked me to present the English version first. So as you can see, this is the Indonesian version. There's the kompetensi dasar, kompetensi inti, and etc. But I will explain the English version first because my lectures based on my lecture instruction, I should present in the English version. So let's begin. So this is the lesson plan that I made. Here is the general information. There is the school course of English, 11th grade, semester 2. Subject matter of the topic is explanation text and time allocation is 90 minutes for 2 meetings. And the author is me, Annisa. And this is the core competencies and basic competencies that I take from the syllabus, our syllabus. And here is the learning objective of the lesson plan that I made. There are 5 learning objectives that I made from the low to the high order thinking. And this is through a scientific approach using a project-based learning model. Why? Because I want the student to make a product. So I make it into meeting. So why are there 5 learning objectives here? Because this is for 2 meeting and because we use project-based learning. So, and this is the learning materials for this text. I also have collected this part of the material from several sources and summarized it again so that student can understand it better and more easily. Like the definition of explanation text, generic structure, 003 generic structure, the purpose of the explanation text and the limit feature, and this is the example of explanation text. Actually, this text that I have processed, let me to show you the real website before I process it. So this is the website. This website is good and authentic and has complete material as well as visual videos. This is the videos and you can replay it, and the photo so that the explanation are easier to understand. And this material is also accordant with the English for Science and Technology and easy to teach to the senior high school student. So let's go back to the lesson plan. Here is my lesson plan again. So this is the text that I have processed from the real website. There are 3 generic structures, as we know. There is the generic statement, explanation, and the closing. And next, this is the learning media that I use in teaching apart from the video, namely the PowerPoint slide presentation. And don't forget, I also make games so that students are more interested in learning which is definitely related to the material, like this. And because times are getting more sophisticated, we have to be able to use technology. So, let's continue. Next, there's the learning method. Approach is like what I said before, is scientific approach with the model, project-based learning, and this is the method. And as I have said before, because I want the student to be able to also make a product, so I use the project-based learning approach to carry out 2 meetings so that students understand more about this meeting and this material. And this is the media tools and the materials. There is a video at the bottom of the following web. There is the real web that I have mentioned to you before, and etc. There is the learning resource. There is the real website, and this is the link for the games. So the student will not feel bored anymore, and etc. And we come to the learning activities. The first meeting, there's the learning stage. there is introduction, perception, motivation, and for the first meeting, is time allocation is 90 minutes, but you will divide it into 10 minutes for pre-teaching, 70 minutes for the while teaching, and 10 minutes for the post-teaching. So, in the pre-teaching like this, there are some stage that you can read, and the essence of this first meeting, like this, in a while teaching, and the essence of this first meeting is that students are told about explanation text, then give a worksheet to determine the student understanding before being given a project at the next meeting. Also interpret with the game so that students don't get bored anymore. You can read it by yourself too clearly because our time is limited. There are 3 LKPD or worksheet, LKPD 1, 2, and 3. And next, there's the post-teaching. Like this, there are 4 stage learning. And for the second meeting, the time allocation and the stage are almost same, but there is some difference. The same as several steps in the learning process at the first meeting, such as in the pre-teaching. The difference in the section teacher will divide students into several small groups, which is consisting of 3 people. Also, there is the introduction, appreciation, and motivation. And come to the while teaching, the teacher will give clear instruction to the student how the project works, and you can read my lesson plan by yourself so you can understand it better. And more specifically, because this is our time is limited, right? This is the learning stage, determination of fundamental question, and this is the step specifically design a project, monitor student in project progress, testing the result, and evaluate the result. And here is the post teaching. So this part is the assessment rubric assessment, and some of which I rely on assessment method that have been tested by several experts, and some of which I modify according to the syllabus, material, and student needs. And here are some assessment rubric that I will use in carrying out learning according to this lesson plan. For the first, there is the individual assessment sheet. This is for the first meeting, and this is for the second meeting, group discussion assessment, and this is for the first meeting again, knowledge assessment sheet for the LKPD or the worksheet activity 1, activity 2, and activity 3, and this is the answer. Also, there's the answer and the point, and this is the assessment for the second meeting. Writing ability assessment and speaking ability assessment. You can read it by yourself to make it more clearly. And this is the final assessment ranks. Mengetahui the principal, and this is my name, guru mata pelajaran. And this is the sum of attachment. This is the LKPD atau worksheet or the worksheet for meeting 1. This is the text. The text I have processed from the real website. And this is the worksheet 1. The students are asked to matching the vocabulary with the definition. And for the LKPD 2 or worksheet 2, the students are asked to determine whether the statement is true or false, and the student can write it here. Write their answer here. And this is the worksheet 3. Student asked to answer this question. And for the second meeting, this is the template or the LKPD or the worksheet. So they can write their product, their out text, explanation text here. So that's all my lesson plan. You can read it by yourself to make it more clearly. Because our time is so limited, so I cannot to tell you every single details, right? But I have to do my best. So now we come to the conclusion. At the end, let me to sum up my main points. The first one is English for Science and Technology is very important, useful, and can provide many benefits to the students. And in teaching English for Science and Technology, teacher must be clever in choosing the material and how to apply it to students. That's why it is very important to us to learn about English for Science and Technology in our campus, because we will be a best teacher in the future, right? So, I think that's all for me. And thank you and see you next meeting. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.